Hi, welcome back to Flannel Graph Basics with By Design Visuals. I'm your host, John Mullane. Thanks for tuning in. Last time we were together, we cut out our water sky background, our basic background that goes on our flannel graph board. I actually have that set up again today because I want to go over this just briefly. Remember how to put this down? Simply start by putting the top down into our strips. That'll grip those fingers will grip onto that fabric and it'll hold it on there. Snug it up just a little bit, not to stretch it. Do the same thing with the bottom. The reason I'm doing this, I want to show you once again how to cut the sides of this. Doesn't matter which one you do first. Start with one side or the other. Fold it over. Make sure that your flannel graph is exactly in the center as much as possible. Run your finger down this center line, okay? Just press it in. I'm not sure if the camera will be able to pick this up, but there's an indentation there. Simply follow along that indentation and cut this portion off right between the two strips, about halfway up your board. I can actually kind of feel the side of those strips with my scissors. When I get up to the fold mark, halfway, just cut it off. All right? That side's done. Snug this over. And do the same thing to this side. And you'll be ready. Now the majority of our video today is actually going to be about cutting out the overlays and the backgrounds that are in the Scenic Overlay set. So you're going to want to have that out, and when we're done, take the time to cut out all of your overlays from the Scenic Overlay set, and you'll be ready for the next video series. All right, that's done. We put this up on our easel. We'll just leave that there for now. That looks great. One of the things that's left from our water sky background is this beautiful nighttime sky. You know, this is actually very versatile. I'll show you this in just a moment, but I'm going to use this one to show you the basics that you'll need to remember for cutting out any overlay or any background that's in the Scenic Overlay set. There's not a black line around this, but you want to cut just a very, very small way into the printed dark blue nighttime sky area. Not very much, just a little ways, but you don't want to leave any white on this border at all. You want it nice and clean. White will distract your eye. You'll know you haven't done it correctly. When you're done, and I'm not going to do all of this time, when you're done, you should have just a small portion of the dark blue cut off, and on this table you can see there's no white on the edge. That's done perfectly, and do that all the way around the nighttime sky. For the rest of our time together, we're going to be cutting out the backgrounds and overlays in our Scenic Overlay set. Let me take this out. What's the difference between a background and an overlay? It's really very simple. A background like this either covers the entire board or it covers about half the board, but it'll cover from side to side. An overlay is smaller. It'll cover just a portion of the board. And what we're going to work on right now is cutting out the meadow overlay, and then later on you can cut out your wilderness or desert overlay. Here's the meadow overlay right here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is a black line even on the top and on the bottom and on the sides of the meadow overlay. Remember what I said before. You have to cut the black line off. You don't want any black on your background at all. Some of the overlays have a very thick black line. You're going to cut it all off. You're going to cut it, but do not cut on the sides. Don't cut this extra white fabric off. So let me very quickly just cut this meadow out. You don't have to do this with precision. Just cut them apart very, very quickly and cut in between them. And I'll show you how to do this. This is where having really sharp scissors like the By Design Visual Scissors comes in really, really handy. I can cut this very, very easily. Cuts nice and sharp. There's no edges. Now you need to be careful here. This edges up very, very closely to our cliff background. So I'm actually going to cut very carefully, cut the black line off the cliff background, and then we'll have it removed. This won't take very long. All right. Nice and straight. All right. There we have it. Now, once again, there's a black line on the bottom. I'm going to cut that off. There's a black line on the top of the mountains. I'm going to cut that off. So just inside the black line, we're going to precision cut this. Now, I'll do this relatively quickly, but let me caution you. Those of you that purchased this, you know you paid good money for this. Take your time. You really only get one chance to cut out your flannel graph. You get one chance to cut out your backgrounds. You get one chance to cut out your overlays. You get one chance to cut out your biblical figures. Take your time. It's not a race. Do it right. Follow the instructions that I give you on this video series, and you'll have a flannel graph set that will last you for years and years and years. And as I mentioned in the last video, once you get these cut out, if you'll always fold your flannel graph with the print side in, you'll keep the dirt off of it. It won't have wear marks, and it'll last for a really, really long time. One of the things that makes By Design Visuals flannel graph so special also is actually how it's printed. These images are not actually printed on the surface. It actually impregnates the ink into the fabric. If they get really, if something happens and they get dropped in the mud or something like that, if you're very, very careful with gentle soap, you can actually wash these. If they get horribly wadded up and wrinkled, you can flip them over and iron them with an iron that's set on a low setting on the back. Don't iron on the front, but you can iron on the back. You can actually take those wrinkles out. But most of the time, you can just smooth those wrinkles out with your hand, and you'll be just fine. Now, I've said this before, but please take note of this. Notice, I'm not cutting the white off the sides. I'm leaving the white, and I'm going to leave the white on both sides. Now, here's where you need to be a little bit more careful. When you're cutting on the mountains, you notice it goes back and forth. You do not have to follow this with precision. You don't have to be that exact. But if you want it to actually look like mountains, you're going to want to follow this line with pretty good precision. But make sure that you're cutting into your background, as I said, and cutting the black line and a little bit of the background, just a little bit of the mountains, completely off. I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to show you why we have these white sides, what the design is for. But while I'm cutting, let me just describe it. One of the things that I've noticed, and I've been using flannel graph for years, one of the things that I noticed is when I was outside on a windy day, sometimes my backgrounds would go flying off into the breeze, which was very, very entertaining for the children, but was not very effective in telling a flannel graph story to capture their attention and change their life. So when we designed our flannel graph, I always thought, if we just had some felt on the sides, I could wrap that around the sides and clip that or adhere that to the background, to the board. It would never come off. And with our easel, remember that clip on the top? you can actually clamp the top of the board right onto the easel, and it won't even fall off your easel. All right, let me finish this up, and then I'll show you how this works. As I mentioned before, these mountains are actually taken off images from the Holy Land. They don't have mountains like, the Rocky Mountains that we have in the western part of the United States, or the Andes, or for South and Latin America, or the incredible mountains and stuff that they have in Asia. They don't have mountains like that. They're more like low-lying hills. So these are actually very similar to what the Holy Land looks like. We wanted that to be visually accurate as well, just like with our scripts. Accurate to the scriptures. All right, there we go. I think we did a pretty good job on that. All right, let me show you how this works. Simply put it on your board, bring it down to the bottom, wrap this side around, and I'm actually just kind of folding that in to that Velcro strip. Remember that we cut off before when we first started this video? Don't stretch it, but just snug it across. Put it on the back, run your hand over the side. There you have it. Actually have this one a little bit high. I'm going to move that down. All right, there you go. So, this is the reason why we have these extra Velcro strips. We can pull that across. We can lock that in. The wind isn't going to blow that off. That's not going to fall off. It works perfectly well. Smooth that out. Bring that across. Now, after this video is done, take these different images, simply cut the pieces out very, very quickly with your scissors, and then with precision, go through and cut the black line off the rock overlay, cut the black line off the wilderness. You have your images for creating a river. You have some trees here. But let me talk about the trees for just a moment. The trees are actually more like a biblical figure. You don't cut them the same. You actually leave a portion of the black line around that. So let me just cut this out very fast. We'll be covering this actually in our next video. How to cut out figures. So you'll notice this tree has a pretty thick black line around it. But this is actually a combination figure. Part of this you want to stand out. When it has the really thick black line and it's a regular figure like these trees, cut about to the middle of that black line. Leave part of the black line on. Cut part of the black line off. You say, John, why am I doing that? You're doing that because these also have a design. Very, very much like a picture frame. All right, I'll cut the rest of this out later. A figure, you want to stand out from the board. It's like a frame around a picture. You want that to have some pop. You want that to stand out. And so you leave about half of that black line on there. Whereas with a background, you don't want that to stand out. You want that to all blend together as one picture. Now what I've done, I've already precision cut everything that's on the scenic overlay background set. I have it all cut out. Let me show you how this is actually supposed to work.